I subscribe to Father Richard Rohr's daily emails from the Center for Action and Contemplation. These daily emails are wonderful reflections in the realm of spirituality and theology, and they have really helped me to keep evolving and to keep growing, both in terms of my spirituality and theological foundation. Rohr lately has been doing a lot of reflecting, of course, on this pandemic, its realities, its challenges, and opportunities as well that it offers us these days. Richard Rohr has such a rich grasp of our tradition, and recently he was talking about a story from the desert tradition. The desert tradition is a very rich time in the history of Christianity. In that time, people were fleeing cities and moving out to the deserts in northern Africa, and lots of them would take up residence in little huts or cells. It really has the early roots of monasticism. And in these huts and in these cells, they would spend lots of time praying and would sometimes meet with each other for direction and sometimes gather communally for prayer or socializing. But a lot of their time was spent in their cells either praying or working. And their work was often very menial work, ways of supporting themselves. And one of the ways that a lot of these early desert Christians, early monks, supported themselves was by making rope or making other things. And Richard Rohr shared one of those stories recently. I've heard lots of stories like this, and they're wonderful because they're always jarring. You always expect some deep answer, and usually the desert father or mother who is asked their opinion on something gives some startling, disarmingly simple answer. So here's the story. In a teaching from the Desert Fathers, an old desert father was asked what was necessary to do to be saved. He was sitting making rope. Without glancing up, he said, "You're looking at it." Just as so many of the mystics have taught us, says Rohr, doing what we are doing with presence and intention is itself prayer. I think that story has a lot to tell us today as we shelter at home. Some of us might feel like we're not doing anything, or we might feel like there's too much of sameness in our lives right now, or maybe we're missing a more exciting life, a busier life, thinking that it had more meaning. And I think that story is a good invitation to recognize that it really doesn't matter what we do, but how we do it, the quality of our presence, the depth of our intention, and our awareness of being a part of something larger than ourselves. Those things can invest any task, any work, any occupation with a holiness and a spirituality that can be a blessing not just for us, but for those around us. It also reminds me of what St. Therese the Little Flower would often say. She really struggled to find her calling, and finally she just decided that her calling was to love, and that enabled her to do anything. So she would happily do the most menial task in the convent. For her, maybe it was washing the floors or doing the laundry. The lower the task, the better for her, because it just gave her that much more opportunity to do it with great love and to not be distracted by whether it was important or not. So I think as we go through some of the sameness of these days, at least I hear the same for a lot of us day in and day out, as we struggle with letting go of our old life, the busy life, the demanding life, always being on the go, living in the quieter routines, living in the sameness of these days, it gives us a great opportunity to learn how to be more present. And in being more present to what we do and what we're called to do here and now, it frees us from needing to be too important and just being able to invest our lives as much as possible with a holy awareness and to know and to find out the joyful truth that God meets us there and wherever we are.